So it was like a map to exploring your consciousness, you know, like these different artists, these different visual effects are all kind of intertwined by the fact that they have like this higher frequency attached to it.
This is synchronicity.
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 Welcome to episode 65 of Synchronicity. My guest this week is Matt Xian from TIMEWHEEL&nbsp and a wonderful band called Something Fiction. I'm going to get to Matt in just a second. Don't worry. You know the drill. First things first, listener question episode will be coming up soon. If you have any questions for me or any previous guest who's been on the podcast, send me an email at noah@syncpodcast.com. We're going to do an episode where those questions are answered. You can also join the Facebook Synchronicity group. There's a link on the website, and you can ask the questions in there, and I will put them together in a document, figure out how to do that. So there you go. That's coming up. Another quick note. Some of you have been asking where the music comes from for the beginning of the episodes and the end of the episodes. That's my music. Thank you if you enjoyed it. If you don't, I don't care. But if you have, a few people have asked, where can I listen to this in one place? So there was no place that you could do that up until last week. I created a Dropbox folder with all of the clips, all of the songs in one convenient place. I'm going to be releasing that next week. So stay tuned if you're someone who wanted to listen to those things. I really appreciate it. I love the positive feedback. It keeps me going. It's been especially helpful as I am forcing myself every day to make music for at least 1 hour a day. It's going pretty well, so can't knock that. Also, again, thank you to everyone who participated in the survey I sent out for this creativity project that I'm working on. It's going really well. I got some incredible feedback. I'm going to be reaching out to some of you specifically in the coming weeks to get some more feedback. I'm really looking forward to this project. I think it's going to be something that's very beneficial. It's already been helping me, so I hope it helps the people who would be engaging with it. Okay. That's it from my side. Let's talk about Matt. So Matt Xian, right? So I stumbled across something on Facebook a few months ago, maybe even a little longer, which was just, I'm a big fan of cool GIFs. I like things that are cool, psychedelic, kind of trippy, cool, make you think GIFs, something I enjoy on Facebook. When they added that feature, I was very happy. And I started seeing a few from this place, TimeWheel. And then I met Corey Allen, and then I met Michael Phillip from the Astral Hustle and Third Eye Drops podcast, respectively. And they both kept mentioning Matt and TimeWheel. And I'm like, I think I know what you're talking about, but not really. And then I started to connect the dots that the stuff I'd been seeing on Facebook and social media were TimeWheel, that Matt was a co-founder of this, and he actually was the impetus for how this stuff got created. So I reached out to him. I said, hey man, come on the podcast. I want to find out more about you. And truthfully, I always am in awe when people who are in their 20s are so well put together and centered and kind of doing what is important to them. I find it incredibly inspiring. And Matt is certainly one of those people. He's a musician. He's an artist. He's a creator. He's a curator. He's doing a lot. He's a business runner. He's really quite an extraordinary person, and you'll hear in this episode why that's the case. We talk about the value of the psychedelic experience, how that influenced his life. We talk about some of his techniques that he uses to get into his body if his mind is racing a little bit too much, which I think is a wonderful tip. I've noticed since I've been doing regular exercise every day, when you're sometimes in a negative mind state, just getting into your body, whether it's jogging, running, exercise, even breath work, can be incredibly potent in terms of shifting your state of mind. we talk about music. We talk about some of his influences. I think he's a guy who will continue to offer quite a bit to the world as he discovers more. He subsequently, after this podcast, reached out and had some questions about Buddhism and Bardo states and life after death and things. And so I sent him a wonderful book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche, one of my favorite books. I think it's one of the best introductory and comprehensive looks at Tibetan Buddhism and kind of the cosmology behind that. So yeah, definitely check that out. Maybe next week we'll do a book giveaway for the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. How's that sound? I think we're going to do that. So yeah, Matt, great dude. Loved this episode. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to this podcast, who has donated to this podcast. Holy shit, thank you. Awesome. You can do that on syncpodcast.com if it floats your boat. That'd be cool. And to everyone who has rated and reviewed the podcast. Really easy to do. You can do it from the website. You can do it on iTunes. It helps. It helps me feel better, and I think it actually helps with the ratings. Synchronicity, this podcast, is going through a tremendous growth spurt, and I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has made that a possibility. That means you specifically, because that's when I'm talking about growth spurts. I'm talking about people listening to the podcast. Definitely thank you to everyone. Things are going great. I'm moving in less than a week. We'll be New Yorkers again in the Hudson Valley. If you're up there, if you live in that area, if you live anywhere close, well, let's hang out. We need some new friends. We're going to go meet people up there. Really looking forward to that. Without further ado, guys, how about that? Without further ado, here is Matt Xian.
Yo.
What's up, man?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Busy, but good. I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah.
What are you're based in Austin?
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
I do a lot of client and partner work out of Austin, though.
Oh,
so,
cool. So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll find out in the episode, but I'm like super stoked to find out more about all of your endeavors that you have going on. I see you are a multidisciplined type of guy. I can appreciate that.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Thanks so much for coming on and doing this. I'm really excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I was just listening to the mind meld you did with Michael on Third Eye Drops, and it was very illuminating. But I purposely kind of kept my intake of you speaking or finding out more about you because I wanted to do it on this episode. But dude, like I'm so totally impressed with the community and the platform you created with TimeWheel, especially. It's so fucking rad, man. Really cool.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. It's been a dream come true to do this.
Okay, let's just get started. Let's start with TimeWheel, just because like I just mentioned, it really is a very impressive outlet for a lot of different types of media. But the unifying factor that I've been able to notice just tuning in is that it seems to really be like conscious, thought-provoking, vibe-inducing content. You know what I mean? It's not like there's a clear distinction. And I'd like to also start and say, you know this from building communities online, especially on Facebook and social media. There is so much stuff being put out on a daily basis. So similar. A lot of it is very derivative, and a lot of it can be kind of lumped together in this, new form of media that's coming out here. Right. But I personally believe, and I've had a lot of conversations on this podcast recently, that it's not the actual finished product that communicates what actually is going on, but it's the intention and the essence of what was going on when the media was being created or put out that actually is what determines its resonance with other people. So, I mean, I guess we could start. Tell me a little bit how Time Wheel got started. I also just want to know, like, tell me about yourself, man. Like, I'm genuinely interested, like, how you got into this. I know you're a musician. I know you do a ton of other things. So, but I'd love to start with Time Wheel because that's kind of how I got tuned into what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So, to go in to talk about me, I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I'm a curator. I'm a writer of sorts. And, I've been a musician my whole life. Some of my earliest memories are me playing on a piano and also taking piano lessons when all my friends were out at recess. I was held back into this kind of little closet pretty much to take piano lessons with an elderly woman, and she was pretty nice. So, and it was fun getting that kind of early jump into the music world. But I mean, it took many years, even though all the time I was playing music, I was always playing on the piano, I was always singing. It took forever for me to really embrace it, to realize, like, I am a musician this lifetime, I don't know why that was. I knew it was the one thing I really enjoyed. But, society, school, influences, friends, parents, everything kind of pushes you to want the same things everyone else wants. You end up wanting to have financial security, a wife, a kid, this education path that everyone seems to be on. You want to like go along with your friends. You don't want to get left behind by them if they go to some university. So all these things started, becoming the forefront of my life for some weird reason in high school. Even though music was really where my heart was from being a kid. And so that is kind of, the high school time is generally when people learn to experiment with consciousness. And that was what happened to me. It took a long time. I was kind of really gung-ho about my sobriety for a long time. And I would say things like, on the history list of this life, I don't want to be someone who does drugs. I don't, I want to live this pure life or whatever. And I was definitely influenced by Christianity growing up. I was raised Catholic. Of course, once the internet came around and movies like Zeitgeist started, penetrating the social circles, all of that stuff was kind of quickly, I started to become a skeptic about religion, which I kind of grouped all religions into the same kind of religion that Christianity was, which was ill-informed of me, because now I look at many religions in the world after having studied a lot of them and think, hey, those are actually pretty cool. But to come back to experimenting with consciousness, I was probably 18 or 19 before I ever really had an altered state experience. A lot of people maybe do that when they're 14, 15. I always thought, whoa, that's way too young.
Yeah, I did it when I was 15. I took LSD for the first time.
I was like, I couldn't fathom having this experience at that age. But at the same time, I think waiting so long really made it that much more powerful when I broke through. And when I broke through, all of those things that I was just talking about, like the hopes and dreams that are the same as all of my friends or all my contemporaries, kind of were just shattered. And I was left with, what is it that you want? Like, what is it that defines who you are? And those few things are the things that I love. And those things that I love were music and performance and also visual art that accompanies music. And I realized this all in an afternoon, you know what I'm saying? So it was like I'd spent 18 years looking for myself. I knew the whole time because it was right in front of me, but I never embraced it. And so that's kind of how I found out who I was as a person, or, and realized that I have this role as an artist or as a musician or as a curator of sorts, because I think all artists and musicians are curators. They're curating what they want to create. It just so happened that I also became good at curating other people's work as well, which is really a big part of Time Wheel. But the early part of Time Wheel came with me and my band, Something Fiction. We've been together for probably nearly 10 years, not really officially, but not really in the public for 10 years. But, you know, we have been playing together, been a band for that long. And it wasn't until these kind of psychedelic experiences started creeping their way into my life that we really started recording and really putting music out and, and wanting to follow that career path. And my band was, I guess, the first artist on what people, you know, now know as the Time Wheel label.
Right.
And we kind of started wanting to connect with other people, but we're here in San Antonio. There wasn't really a big music. Well, there is a music scene, but especially not a music scene that has to do with like transcendental thinking.
Right.
So so we started to look for those few and far between artists that resonated on that level with us. A lot of it was done through the internet, communicating, networking. You know, slowly we gained contact with all of the best artists in San Antonio that are all on this level of thinking, and we just decided to create a collective, and that collective was Time Wheel. We called it Time Wheel from the beginning. Previous to that, it was a production company, which is, you know, I've been building this, you know, production company for quite a while, but now it's kind of all under one roof, because I also shoot film. If I had to say what kind of film artist I would say a documentary filmmaker, although I haven't made a documentary yet. I've only assisted in creation of documentaries, but I certainly shoot like a documentary filmmaker. It's always about capturing what's around me, things that I find interesting, presenting things in a cool angle and a cool light. Again, it's a type of curation.
Right.
And, you know, so gradually we made contact with all these artists, banded together, created, you know, this platform, and we hosted our music, our art, our curations on our blog on timewheel.net, and eventually it kind of created a life of its own, in that all the content and stuff that we like, the things that inspire us to create, ended up going well with our audience.
Right.
The audience we started building based around our music and our curations, and, you know, I'm probably going to say music, art, and curations.
That's okay, man. That's kind of what my life is about too. So
that's how it started. And then, you know, we made contact with some really influential people in the psychedelic sphere. And I've always, you know, ever since that first experience, my first psychedelic experience, I did nothing but research, online research. You know, Terrence McKenna, Dennis McKenna, you know, Ram Dass, Alan Watts. You know, I just would download all of this stuff constantly, like Googling what is mystical experience, because I just had one,
right?
And I don't even know what it is. You know,
right.
I had to learn from zero, like what is this experience that I had on psychedelics, because it wasn't just a drug experience. Like,
so what year was that experience that you had?
Good question. Let me take a look. I think about 2010.
2010. Okay. Yeah. So you are lucky in a lot of respects that you had a transcendental experience that could be validated through the lens or mirror of the internet, right? Like Arrowhead was in full-fledged back then. You could you know what I mean? And it was when I was, so I had my first experience when I was 15, which would have been, that was in 98 or 99. You know, the internet was around, and there were, Arrowhead, I believe, was up like within a year or two after that, if not then. But it was pretty damn hard to validate experiences. And you would get, what you'd usually have to do is talk to other people who had done it. And you know, obviously, if you've done psychedelics since then and are in the community, there's a huge spectrum of experiences one can have on the exact same substance. So if it's LSD, there's a whole range of experiences you can have depending on set and setting, you know, personal psychology, karma. There's a whole lot of factors in there. So it wasn't always the best way to try to have to figure things out. Luckily, this is why I'm so encouraged and I love where we are with the internet. And, you know, it's, to be clear, I think the internet is a neutral platform. I don't think it's inherently good. I don't think it's inherently bad. I think it can be used for good things and it can be used for bad things, much in the same way money it can be. You know, I used to think money was the root of all evil. Sure. No, it's not. You can use money to help people in like a really substantial way. It's a form of energy that we have ascribed value to. But anyway, so with the psychedelics, like, it's good now that people, when they have these experiences, can quickly validate and experience. And there's pitfalls to this, of course, too, but you can kind of get up to speed and be like, okay, I didn't just lose my mind. I didn't just experience something that no one knows nothing about. There's actually enough here that I have an idea of what's going on, which is useful in the sense that I'm sure as you were validating this to yourself, you're like, okay, now I can kind of align myself as I am now with this experience that kind of fundamentally changed my outlook on life. And I think that's like an amazingly beneficial thing that's helping a lot of people in this day and age.
Totally. It is. And I want to say too that it takes a certain type of person, people like you and me perhaps, to even kind of hear that calling to want to research it, because just because you have that experience doesn't mean you're going to want to follow through with learning about it and integrating it and putting that as a normal part of your daily life, you know?
Well, it goes back to what you were saying about kind of this culture game. And it's funny as you're checking off the list of like what people are doing, you know, get married, have a kid, have financial security. I mean, these are the things that I'm married. I just had a kid. I'm aspiring to financial security, but in this weird way, you can pursue what you're really defining here. And what sounds like the genesis of TIMEWHEEL is this is the hero's call, right? This is Campbell's hero's journey. You have to get in touch, find what it is you're really about in this life, right? And then you have a choice. And people forget this when they talk about the monomyth, the hero's journey, is you can turn down the call. You can say, nah, I'm good. I kind of like it here. I'm going to stay. I don't really need to do that. And that really is defined, you know, by Campbell and a lot of people. That's very psychically damaging. That's kind of how you then get a culture that's built up around things that aren't actually important. And, you know, there's so many factors why people desire the things that they desire or think that they desire. We'd be remiss if we didn't point out, like, you know, media and culture's influence on, you know, advertising and how that gets people to kind of aspire to something that maybe they don't actually want. Which is why I go back to what you're doing. You're talking about curating and music and following your calling. Like, I'm sure you got this at some point, but you must have realized, like, okay, I really love making music. And I graduated from Berklee College of Music. Music is a huge part of my life. It's it's right up there with anything else. But I'm sure you realized, like, okay, there's a lot of shit coming out from a lot of different angles. I really like this stuff. I seem to be able to be relatively good at building communities and curating certain things that I think vibe with me and other people. The best thing we can do is just continue to put this out in the world, amplify the signal, and allow people to tune in as they come across it. So that's our kind of medicine for all of these other ways of being. And, you know, as a testament to how well you've done and how well this stuff can work, like, I independently tuned into TIMEWHEEL about a few weeks before. And I remember when I got in touch with you, like, several people had mentioned your name to me. And it was like a, you know, synchronicity. I don't want to overplay that word on this, but like, I was like, okay, like, this is a pretty potent and powerful thing that's going on here. And like I said, like, I don't want this to be lost. Like, I'm on Facebook a lot. I come across hundreds, thousands pieces of memes and media and GIFs and music and art on my Facebook stream every day. And I can immediately tell when there's something qualitatively different. And I'll even, you know, go as far to say, like, I've seen the same GIF posted by 25 different accounts, but I can tell the accounts who, like, actually understand what this is and why they're communicating it, rather than the people who are like, well, I just want to get shares and likes, and then I want to sell advertising. I'm going to do sponsored posts for media. Like, there is something there. And what I'm so encouraged about seeing, and especially in talking to Michael Phillip about this, about you, there seems to be an increasing number of people who kind of get what this is about. This
Right.
isn't a game to make money. This isn't a further expansion of the digital economy to enrich people. It really is about tuning consciousness or providing kind of the template for allowing people to tune their consciousness, both with psychedelics and endogenously, as Bruce Damer would put it. So yeah, I'd love to hear your take on that.
Absolutely. I think that was the initial goal, because TimeWheel, before it was the site that it is now, it was a very kind of simple site, and all it was a place for us to go listen to the things we wanted. We almost thought of it as like a map to it was like a map to exploring your consciousness, this music, these different artists, these different visual effects are all kind of intertwined by the fact that they have like this higher frequency attached to them. And that is kind of what started to bind all of the media together, All the media that we put out has this quality to it that it's progressive in nature. It's forward thinking, which is, what progressive means. And it's also quite beautiful to listen to in an altered state of consciousness, So I think that is what we were tuning into very early on in both creating and curating. And I think that also what, did I lose you there? You there?
No, I'm here.
Okay, great. I think that also a lot of the artists that we involved ourselves with really saw that in our music. Early on we started working with Salvia Droid. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I am.
So, he's a very friendly, social media friendly guy. And so he was easy to network with, talk to, collaborate with. And the worlds that, he's creating are the spaces that our music is emanating from. And I don't know, I think that that's kind of why we're both a music and art label.
Right.
And I think that it's cool that in today's day and age, you don't necessarily have to just be one thing.
That's right.
Yeah, you can kind of take everything that you like, bring it all together, present it in a nice way, that it all makes sense and it's all cohesive, and spread it as much as you can, as well as you can.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting, the kind of nebulousness that goes along with being able to do anything is both a potentially scary and frightening thing, but also it's so laden with opportunity, right? I mean, this is something that I'm sure every digital entrepreneur in whatever form that takes has to deal with this question of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's what are the tools and, resources I'm going to use to create what I'm doing? And I think this is, with the lowered barriers to entering into this realm, also just comes the more effort that needs to be exuded. Because you keep mentioning something, you've used words like binding, cohesion. This is what I think ultimately kind of separates collectives from each other, from both, really doing it and coming together and creating something and having an impact, and just kind of like this loose assembly of people who are together. Not that there's anything one is better than the other, but if your intention is to create something that's going to resonate with a lot of people, cohesion and focus really starts to come into play. So, I mean, let me ask you this, like, in your personal life, like, are you the type of person who quickly kind of sees how to enact things? You plan things out. They're kind of, you have a strategy in mind, or do you kind of follow the path of intuition and synchronicity and resonance? I know in my life, and I'll just preface this, like, I do a bit of both, but I've always leaned towards kind of the resonance and, the synchronicities of the world. I am now specifically in the past, 2-3 years, especially trying to cultivate this more, strategic planning and allow that to kind of fuse with the intuitiveness. Cause I think we're at this place in time where those two in tandem are just incredibly beneficial. But I'd love to hear kind of how you operate within this space. And it's because, and primarily I'll say this, like, this is for me. Like I operate in a very similar space, kind of in maybe a different slant, through a reflected slightly differently through the prism of the internet. But I am fascinated by how many people I've met who are doing something really fucking cool, aided and abetted by the internet, but also with a grander intention of actually like bettering people's minds and thereby the world. So I'd love to hear kind of like how you function in this space personally.
Sure. So, about intuition versus strategy, I would say a lot of it was intuition early on. A lot of it was just wanting to do something cool, just wanting to do something for us, our small group of artists. We really had no plan for it to get, big. And the fact, and maybe that is honestly what helped it to get big.
Of course, yes.
Because we were all just about the presentation. We wanted to present all of this content in the right light, and so that people understood, what it was here for. And also, we knew that it wasn't for everyone, because some people would come here and they might like a completely different type of art or music, or identify with a whole different culture, and we're okay with that. We're not trying to please everyone.
You're not evangelicals in the sense you're trying to convert people to like what you like. You want people to naturally and organically resonate with it. I get it. Yeah.
Exactly. And we keep it that way, and we've kept it that way. And we don't really, while we have experimented with different types of artists, especially more recently, some that don't necessarily fall into a psychedelic field, they are absolutely still pushing boundaries and seeing art as music and music as art, and the way that they intertwine, and so that, to us, we back stuff like that. Yeah. And so I think that it's mostly been intuition. It's mostly been, I would almost say luck or synchronicity as well, because I don't know, we could have never planned for where we are now. We would have thought that we would do this as a job. This is how we make our living, and it's amazing. And that's why I say it's a dream come true, because up until that first breakthrough experience, I thought that I would just be working for some computer company or something, because I was always drawn towards technology.
Sure.
And it makes sense that, we operate on like a technological level with this social media, with these websites.
You're in the digital domain. Exactly.
Totally. And I was always good at that. I was good at computers. I was interested in how computers worked. So, my plan was to go to college for pretty much computer science. But, I just left school because I knew that I didn't need school for what I wanted to do, which was this. And it's not like I think school's inherently bad or anything, but it's just like, if you know who you are and what you want to do, just be true to that, because no one can teach you who you are. You know what I mean?
That's right. And I also think, the other thing with school is like, just my personal opinion, having gone to college, knowing many other people who have, like, I think we send people to college at the totally wrong time. Like when you're 18 to like your young 20s, like you shouldn't be in college being inundated with all this stuff. I mean, some people should who want to, but like now, I'm like 33. I would love to go to college now. Now I could actually appreciate like the wisdom someone has who's been doing this for 30, 40 years, communicating things to me that I know I want to learn, not being like, hey, I'm in college with a bunch of other young people doing shitloads of drugs and learning, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's a weird time that we send people through this rigorous program of regimented, like standardized testing and AP curriculums and all these things, and then just place them in this weird free kind of institution where you're supposed to be like learning the tools and skills. And we don't even need to get into the fact that it like severely handicaps people financially most of the time because of the debt that people accumulate to get, go to a college. But I will say, like, man, like you have tapped into one of the cheat codes for life, which is when you hear the little voice inside your head, your conscience or your soul say something, you're listening and you're saying, hey, this isn't like something I need to push aside and not paying attention to because that doesn't fit the paradigm of the consensus reality we live in. You're saying, you know what? this is a big, I mean, because you alluded before, like you said, you and me are types of people who do this, investigate those things. And if you have a transcendent experience, truthfully, a real transcendent one, you've transcended your reality, I think it's crazy. I think this is insane that you wouldn't investigate what the ramifications or implications of that experience were. How could you ever go back? I mean, this is for people who haven't done psychedelics, the question they're usually concerned with is, well, I hear it changes you. I hear you're a different person after, which is a terrifying thought to someone who thinks their ego is their entire basis for reality. You don't want to lose that. So it's like basically dying. So you're losing your identity. Lo and behold, when you actually go through any experience where you lose your identity, it's actually a pretty incredible thing. It can be very scary. I'm not denying that fact, but it loosens the rigidness that can come with thinking things are a certain way without actually knowing what is going on. So, I mean, you seem to have this ability that propels you forward. And I'll tell you, like, why I love speaking to people like you and seeing what you're doing and the success that's coming your way is you validate this idea that if you follow your calling, success will find you. And I don't mean success necessarily in the sense of you're going to be rich or you're going to be able to quit your day job or you're going to be able, but you will find the real successes and riches that actually propel you towards actual happiness. And if money comes later and you have a way to do that, or you have some other things that fulfill certain desires that make you feel happy in a not in a pejoratively superficial sense, but in a way that is comfortable, that's great too. But, I think we hear stories too much of the failed, not practical artist mentality. And we see this validated. Like I always look at the political situation because I think it reflects things that go on also in the artistic communities. And one of the things that I think this narrative that have emerged, and I went to a music school, man, like everyone kind of thought like this, because you would see really talented people just burn out and fail for a variety of reasons, is you can't be a successful artist. You can't pay the bills. You can't have the life you want. And I think the real reasons for that is if you look back to the commoditization of art and music in general, it's not that it's not a viable income career or you can't make a living. It's that the main sources of control that kind of dictate the commerce of the platform and media have totally fucked over artists and musicians forever. Like that's literally been the operating system this shit has been built on since it's been commoditized. So again, a parallel I see in kind of what we're doing. I'm trying to do this with MindPod Network, and so many things you're saying about your artists and the people you brought in, even when they don't match stylistically necessarily, there is this unifying factor of these people who are communicating this stuff. But yeah, I mean, the parallels between it are very obvious to me because we're trying to create platforms and collectives that allow people who are doing meaningful and good things, not for themselves. Might be a little bit for themselves, but not in a bad way, but really for the benefit of people who'd be tuning in. Creating platforms that are successful and can sustain, that's the best thing we can do right now. Because to expect it to change from the top down, like all of a sudden Sony or EMI is going to be like, hey, guess what? We're going to really fairly support artists right now. Like that shit ain't going to happen. So, I mean, it's encouraging, it's validating, and I love to see that it's going on. And I would love to hear your take kind of on how you view TimeWheel or collectives kind of enabling artists and people who have creative impulses to kind of pursue those desires.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that, and I mentioned this on my podcast with Michael Phillip, that TimeWheel has been pretty much an incubator of sorts.
Right.
We really want to invite people in that we feel share the aesthetic and the same philosophy about music and art that we do. And a lot of times we, just become friends. And so it's almost like a friend network.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, it's easy, but we really feed off of each other, because when you have 30 artists around you, which is, the rough number of how many artists we have on our label, that are constantly sending you their latest music, their latest album covers, their latest release dates, and their latest aspirations and ambitions, it fuels you.
Right.
It helps you get your own artistic vision in order as well. So it's like I've built this life around me to help support me through my own.
Isn't that funny?
journey,
Yeah,
you
isn't
know?
that funny, man? It's so,
Yeah, and at the same time, we're helping other people. So it's great.
it's what I call like a win-win-win. It's like the ideal. I think it's truthfully the way the world can work in every sector of business, art, life, relationships. It's just not how it hasn't worked like that to date. Most people are operating with this scarcity model for good reason too. Like, I don't want to say like there's anything wrong if you're thinking like I got to pay my bills this week or there's not enough. Like, it's a very real situation for a lot of people, myself included, like truthfully. But if you're operating from the place that there's not enough, that you have to do things a certain way, you're not playing by your rules, even if you think that you are. And that is a very disempowering thing. And I love that you describe it as like, I mean, because this is what I feel like this podcast has really taught me more than anything. It's that I've created this channel and mechanism that is obviously people are finding benefit in. You know, my numbers continue to surge like every episode, every month to month, but I'm really doing it for myself because it propels me forward into conversations, meeting new people, my own creativity. I've been putting my music in my podcast. I've been doing more music than I've ever been doing because I feel obligated to for the episode. And so it's like you unknowingly are serving yourself while serving other people. And that to me is like the goal of life. Whatever you tune into and however you want to kind of manifest that, that's it right there. And I want to be clear when we're talking about like the goal of life and all these things. It doesn't mean your life is perfect. Like, you know, 5 very shitty things happened to me yesterday at the same time, like very shitty, like worst day in a long time. And I was the craziest thing that happened to me, the fucking craziest thing that happened to me is I didn't freak out. And I am Mr. Spaz number 1. Like I am number 1. Like I will freak out. I'm the best at it, but I didn't. And what I realized why I didn't, it's not because I meditate, because I rarely meditate. It's not because I read about all this stuff and finally it's sinking in. It's because I've created a world for myself that reinforces what's important to me. And it's not necessarily the 5 shitty things that happened and the inconveniences or, you know, disasters potentially that those were, but it's that I'm really rich in the people I've gotten to know over the past 3 years. And that means more to me ultimately than any other bad thing that's going to happen. And when you really like start doing that and realize you're somewhat responsible for doing that, also let's not, like you said, let's not overlook the factor and importance of grace. Like, I don't understand that. I love the Anne Lamott quote where she says, I don't know what grace is. I just know it when I see it, basically. Like, sure, that is clearly something at work. But like when you're somewhat responsible for creating your reality and it's something that you really know is serving other people, like there's no better feeling in the world than that. Like that is actually like what I believe. I think this is the primary reason we incarnate on Earth, right? And we can get into the whole metaphysical stuff in a second. But I mean, dude, like I'm blown away in speaking with you because I didn't have any real expectations of what you would be like. I mean, we haven't known each other for that long. We've just been tuning each other into Facebook, but it is exactly kind of what I would have expected if I had expectations. Like, you get it. You're intuitively creating systems, environments that not only benefit other people, but you recognize that you're helping other people by helping yourself, and you're helping yourself by helping other people. And that's like what it's all about.
Totally, man. You know, and it's amazing. You know, I feel like I can't even take the credit.
Right. That's the mark. That is the mark of someone who gets it, FYI. Because if you can't, when you just like, what the fuck? I can't take credit for this shit. And you realize like what, that is it. Like that's when you tune in to what is actually going on. And that's where I really believe like magic starts to happen. Like the things that transcend the liminal boundaries between logic and magic. That's when you tap into that state. Now, I'll also point out, here's one of the funny, interesting things I've noticed about that state. When you experience it, this flow state, when magical things are happening, if you're like me, you want to stay there. Right? You want to live there forever, right? And the curious thing is, which everyone knows, I haven't met anyone yet who can do that. I've met people who can do it for long periods of time. Sometimes I can, But the true curiosity of being a human is there's these oscillations between really magical, amazing, beautiful states and then just very like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this shit? Why is nothing going right? So I'm curious, when you encounter those states, inevitably, what are some things that you do to kind of help propel you through? I mean, I'm sure this is manifested in your life in any number of ways, but when things aren't going smoothly, like what do you do that kind of helps shake you out of it or remind you to what's important? Or you could just be like me sometimes and just totally forget and freak out.
Yeah. I think remarkably, it all still starts with that initial altered state experience because you have that etched into your memory. You remember at any time, if you've taken it seriously and you've integrated it into your life properly, you remember at any time the vastness of that and the larger scope. And so almost instantly, it's not like I don't feel doubts or I don't feel, negative emotions, because certainly I do. But it's like within a matter of seconds after feeling it, I recognize, well, hey, let's look at the bigger picture here. Be patient. Calm down. You know what you can do to get out of this, or at least make your body feel different. Because I practice yoga, I go on runs quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if there is something that's just I feel like is like constricting me internally, like I realize that there's many different aspects of techniques you can use to get out of that. But going on a nice run, if it's a day suited for it. It helps, so I would say getting into the body, having patience with yourself, practicing your own type of self-love and self-gentleness, I would say is definitely key. Meditation as well, breath work, because it's all in the mind. It's all these mental projections. It's all fear. And it's not real, ultimately. It's all what if. It's all just like
stories, right?
Yeah,
narratives.
It's all the computer of our mind just making up things. And once you have, come to realize that after so many times of you realizing that whatever you were afraid of, it never happened anyway. So why were you afraid of it?
Isn't that weird that like it's both weird that is usually the case and that we forget it like almost every time. Like it's
so just learn from it. Pay attention to the cycles of your mind. Become a mindful person if it's in your path. And I would hope it was in everyone's path, but it's not. And I think that sometimes even people that aren't that mindful can be successful, so to speak, and even be happy.
Absolutely. And I think, it's a very interesting thing, and trying to understand how other people process, being mindful or happy or what they're bringing into the world is always a slippery slope, because even the best of us who are great at shifting our perspectives to kind of empathize or experience or view the world from someone else, we always miss critical details. Usually, like we're not 100% telepathic or clairsentient or clairvoyant. So, I mean, I get that. I mean, dude, like I love your suggestion of running and getting into the body, because if you're a heady type of person like I am and you've had these crazy experiences that are mind-based, the body can be overlooked. Like one of my favorite philosophers is Socrates, right? I think he's one of the best, Plato's teacher. But Socrates hated the body. He thought it was like some useless fucking organic mechanism that was like getting in the way of actual like understanding what the world is. Now, there might be a kernel of truth to that, but the fact is we're in bodies, so we might as well use them as tools to physiologically and neurologically aid us in what we're trying to do and experience the world. And I can tell you, I got a Fitbit in March of this year, and I am also a mentally disturbed person who is ultra competitive. So I have to be number one on my weekly steps. Like it's a real sickness. It's not healthy, but it's shown me, especially this year, and I haven't exercised since high school. It's shown me the importance of just how moving your body, getting the blood going, getting the breath going can just shift your mental state as much as anything else. And it's so easy to overlook that when we talk about, especially when we start getting into the psychedelic realms. Like I'm sure people do this. Maybe you have, I don't know anyone who's done this, but I've never met someone who like takes a bunch of psychedelics and it's like, I'm going to go for a long run. It's not something that you intuitively would probably gravitate towards because it's such an overwhelming psychological state. But I bet it's a fucking awesome thing to do.
I think you just met someone.
Yeah, there you go. I knew it.
I've totally done that type of stuff. And it's amazing. It makes you feel like the timeless human. I mean, you feel like the archetype of survival. I don't know. You know, like you're running through a field of grass and you say, what a timeless experience this is. This is how they did it thousands of years ago, you know?
Right.
And same with breath work, you know?
Yes.
A lot of times, and I don't do psychedelics as much these days as I have in the past.
Right, neither do I. Right.
Yeah, it's ingrained now. And, you know, every now and then you got to go recharge your battery. But it's not that exploratory experience that it once was, and maybe I will have another string of months of let's explore the deepest depths of my mind, you know, and the cosmos. But you know, right now I'm feeling, you know, relatively centered and understanding on what my path is and everything. So you know, I feel good. But a lot of times, what my journeys would have to do with either mountain biking to what I saw as like my mini spiritual pilgrimage, you know, on this trip, even though it's only 5 miles away, you know, bike to this spot, meditate at this spot, do breath work at this spot. And the actual act of breath work bringing lots of oxygen into the brain, you know, I'm sure maybe you've heard of holotropic breath work. These types of things can drastically change the psychedelic experience to something very powerful, very sacred, very holy feeling, because it just activates those parts of the brain that are active when meditation happens. And when you have a meditative state going on in your brain while you're on psychedelics too, you really tap into the spiritual aspect. Because I think people can have psychedelic experiences, but not really pierce through that spiritual aspect.
That's
right.
right.
You know, they can still trip out and say, whoa, that branch just turned into a rabbit or something. And that was trippy and cool, but they don't quite have that altered state experiences that helps them transcend the ego. So being in the body, I feel, and what psychedelics have helped me realize is in a way, the body is the physical manifestation of the mind. And I would say the whole universe is a physical manifestation of a mind, a larger mind at the same time. But our body is controlled by our mind. If we're in poor health, it's probably because our mind is in poor health, because we're not, you know, being conscious enough to even think about what we're eating, what we're putting into our body, or the fact that we need to flush the system out. Sometimes we need to use it, because if you don't use it, you might lose it or whatever. You know? And those types of things, like, you know, if you think about your body as a manifestation of your mind, like you're choosing what you're eating. If you're eating Whataburger 7 days a week, you're going to be in poor health, and that's going to reflect on your mind.
That's right.
If you change, you know, the way you're living to a cleaner lifestyle, a more holistic and, you know, what's the word? I don't know. A more holistic lifestyle. You know, you're taking your health into account, because it's not all about the health of the body or the health of the mind, but it's about both. And
it's
then
a system
those
too.
together create like spiritual wellness as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where, you know, when a lot of people think about yoga these days, they think of the asanas and the poses, but this is directly connected to the thinking and psychological and spiritual aspects of what yoga is doing too. That's why it's connected to the breath, the body, and the mind. What you're saying is totally spot on. And I mean, I'll even underscore the point. I had like a nerve issue or something like a couple of years ago, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Went to the doctor, and they're like, "Hey, you know, it's a herniated disc. Take some steroids and some Valium." I'm like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?" So I did this. Nothing got better. 3 people within the span of like 3 days recommended this book by this guy, Dr. Sarno, who's essentially like, you know, his whole thing is he was a clinician. He studied like 10,000 people, you know, patients, and he essentially identified what he views as an unconscious process by which the mind creates physical pain in the body to process emotional pain that's not dealt with. And this is why, and he is it's fascinating stuff. I mean, there's a whole exposition on back in the day in like the 40s and 50s, people didn't really have lower back pain or neck issues, but they had ulcers. Then as soon as the 70s and 80s rolled around, ulcers kind of vanished, and now was all of a sudden back pain. So he has all these very interesting, theories, but also as a clinician, he did this with people. So the broad point is that it was unconscious. And I'm more of a Jungian. I'm a big Carl Jung fan, not a huge Freud guy, but this guy's stuff is based on Freud's unconscious mechanisms. And, I did his stuff. It was basically just acknowledging what could be going on. And lo and behold, 2-3 days of doing this, the pain started moving around my body, and then it was gone, right? It still comes back once. It was amazing. But the reason I bring it up is one of his broader theories is that he believes all conditions, and this is not close to being validated, but all conditions, immune conditions like cancer, all of these things are actually their basis is within the mind, and that this is some interaction of some emotion or psychological disturbance that is being processed through the body in that way. And I think we're probably not in our lifetimes going to be able to validate that. But in my mind, having experienced the profound effects of just with a pain sensation, that to me is accurate. And I think what that means is, well, that's pretty fucking cool, of course, but it behooves us to understand that connection and kind of nurture and cultivate both a mental outlook, a spiritual outlook, and a physical outlook on how we want to be healthy in our lives. Because then, like, people want to know, like, when they hear about like magical things or synchronicities, like when I talk about like when I had a trip and it lasted 3 months and my whole life was one giant synchronicity, I know people hear that and they're like, I want to have that happen. And I think there are lots of ways to kind of promote those experiences. And one of them is just taking account of what you're doing with yourself. That means the way you're thinking, what you're putting into your body, the way you're treating other people, your world outlook, your spiritual outlook. And if you could just take stock of what's going on, it's kind of like a mindfulness practice just in that way, like a very overt intellectual one. You could potentially gain insights that are going to radically alter not only your internal life, but your external life. And that's, I think if there was a common thread for what you've been talking about, like with Time Wheel and just your life and how psychedelics is, that you kind of tapped and tuned into that in that one transcendental experience your first time. And that kind of served as a blueprint for how to kind of lead the next chapters of your life. So totally. Yeah, man. That's
I agree. That's totally what happened. I do think that there are these channels within our bodies, and it's not like I have necessarily discovered them for myself in every facet that they exist, but I've certainly read about things like the chakras, the meridians,
the nadis,
the nadis, all these types of things that I do feel on when I'm in an altered state. I can feel an energy, a very subtle energy,
absolutely,
but an energy nonetheless, and I do feel like there is a lot of weight to it, because there are so many things going on around us at any given time that we just don't see and we're not able to process because it's not vital to our survival.
That's right.
We really don't know anything, Like,
it's a small sliver.
Yeah, we're seeing, like, I'd say, 5% or less.
I'd say way less than 5%. Like,
right. So, the fact that we're not able to see, like, let's say even this auric energy field around us, and I don't mean to get too new age on us, on you guys, because I'm not a huge new age person, but I do think that they tap into some ancient wisdom that does have a lot of, validity to it once you enter altered state experiences, or meditation even. It takes a long time to quiet the mind to the point where you can have an understanding the way psychedelics allow you to glimpse, but it's certainly possible. I meditated one time for probably 6 or 6.5 hours, which was the longest I've ever done, and probably for 4 days after that, I was in an altered state experience, which I loved, and it's pretty surprising that I haven't meditated for that long again since, because it's probably been 1 or 2 years since that 6-hour meditation, and I still meditate daily, but it's generally 10 to 30 or 40 minutes, but 6 hours of investing in sitting down with your eyes closed,
4 days,
letting your
yeah.
mind decompress, it can have some powerful results.
Well, it's interesting. This is getting back to the oscillations that we experience as humans, because it's wonderful. You have a daily meditation practice. I've maintained one on and off for maybe like a month or 2 months at times, but I'm inundated with this stuff. I work in this field. A lot of my clients and have been, leading meditation teachers and just like huge luminaries in the field. I don't meditate every day. I have my practice. I do the Hanuman Chalisa. I chant it, so I adhere to something. But it's not because I don't know the benefits and reasons to be meditating, but it's easy to kind of fall into a trap where the things that you know are good for you that you don't do. Investigating the reasons behind that, I think, is probably the antidote to that. But I find it fascinating when we have these incredibly transcendent experiences that we know are powerful and we don't replicate them, not because, we just want to get that feeling again, but because we know it's beneficial. There's some tension or resistance there that ultimately I think is there to promote some type of insight or change that's consciously integrated in. Because if we just naturally did it, it might not be processed in the way that's really going to be beneficial. And I just want to say, I also hear you hold on one second. What is that?
I'm hearing a truck, but I think it's outside my window.
No, it's like Siri just came on my phone. It's so weird. Hold on, let me go get Siri. She wants to chime in.
Siri on psychedelics.
Oh man, that was super weird. Just Siri came on and started asking about movies. It's like, I don't know why that happened.
Revolution has...
Yeah, this is the beginning. We've heard it here first. Skynet is coming. So, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and go back to the music stuff because like I said, that's where my original passion is. As much as I've tried to play the game of, I'm going to be, making money as a digital consultant and, a web strategist, which I've made money in, I've built a career and I'm good at it. I can't shake this music bug, right? I continue to make it. I continue to do it. I continue to connect with people. So I'd love to just kind of come full circle here and ask, what are some of your musical influences? What type of music do you like or enjoy making? It's totally okay to be eclectic and not get pinned down in any area. I'm just curious as to your musical tastes and proclivities.
The grind mentality represented in hip hop really resonated with me because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people listen to hip hop. It's the new pop in a way. Yeah. But not everyone grinds like the way that these hip hop artists talk about grinding.
Right.
As far as, they often talk about, like achieving their dreams and doing things that they would only have thought about before, and now it's their reality. Right. And I would always listen to that and say, "Wow, these guys are practicing like a form of magic."
Yes, I know. I know what you mean.
5 years ago, they put out an EP or a mixtape, and then 5 years later, look where they are, and it's like they called it. So I don't know. I started to really respect rap music. Especially after these experiences of just opening my mind and really absorbing the positive things in them as well. I know a lot of rap songs have really like negative kind of messages as well.
I love that you touch on this, man, because I also for a lot of reasons, I've listened to hip hop over the years, but I also, I've had people in my life who are from, when I was living in New York, like my roommate was from the Bronx, and a lot of people from very like shitty areas in New York City, and they love, hip hop music is a huge part of their lives, especially trap music and all this stuff. And of course, so many of these songs are talking about drugs and selling drugs and misogynistic things and shooting people and killing people. Right. But when you're able to pull out the essence of what is actually being communicated and why you could still appreciate it, that's such a fucking skill in life. It's no surprise you like so many different types of music because you fucking get it. You can tune into the energy that's being communicated and kind of drop the words and drama around it. I totally get it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, a lot of my time is spent listening to electronic music, alternative rock, progressive rock, hip hop, pretty much everything. Even some Eastern music. I do a lot of yoga and meditation to really Eastern sounding things. I couldn't really give you artist names per se because I usually just go to YouTube and type in like Zen music or something,
I feel you.
But I appreciate even that type of music, just really laid back flutes, and I like all kind of music. I think that it's a good thing because I'm able to. I feel like we're kind of trying to push the boundaries for at least locally or in Texas, like what labels have done before. In that I want to intertwine rap artists with progressive rock artists and metal artists and stuff, and in a positive way. And that's what we've been trying to do. And actually, we've put out like I think one rap artist so far, and we are about to put out 2 more. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be fun.
That's really awesome, man. I'm telling you, I'm calling my shot in advance. I'm gonna send you some music I think you really enjoy because I think your tastes would do it. All right, man. So I want to ask you the ending questions that I ask every guest. 3 relatively quick ones and then a more meaningful one. No, they're all very meaningful. I'm not going to shit on the 3 questions. They're great. What's your favorite color?
Growing up, I would have always said red. Now I say black. A lot of people don't really think black is a color, though.
It is. It's all colors, isn't it?
I think so.
Or is it the absence of color?
Yeah, the absence of color might be black. From what I've heard from some people.
Or maybe it's white. Who knows?
I'm very drawn to black. If it had to be anything other than black, I would say red.
Okay, good to know. I'd like both those are excellent colors. What is your favorite number?
I guess 11.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah. Had a lot of interesting synchronistic experiences with 11, as I'm sure a lot of people have. And
yes, of course.
Weird. Have you touched on that on your podcast, 1111? Because it happens a lot.
I haven't touched on it. It's something that does happen a lot. I find it to be incredibly meaningful. One of my secret reasons for asking all of these questions, it was like this will probably be like in the 60s of the episodes here. When I get to like 100, 200, I think the database of people's numbers and animals, which is the next question, and colors is going to be something that's a little interesting. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, hey man, like first of all, before we get to the next 2 questions, I would love to have you on again where I plan on staying in touch with you. I consider you a new friend. Dude, this is like, it's really been a pleasure getting to know you, and we can talk about synchronicities relating to numbers. It's one of my favorite topics.
Sure.
Numbers are archetypes. Some, Marie-Louise von Franz considered numbers to be potentially be the primordial archetypes, meaning the basis of all others. Okay, but enough of that. What is your favorite animal?
A wolf.
Cool, man. That's really cool. I
I always love wolves.
The podcast it'll already be out when people are hearing this, but I'm releasing Simon Hajduk today, and the picture I chose for his episode is that cool wolf thing.
Oh, right.
Oh, it's so rad.
Love that piece.
That's so fucking cool. All right, and the last question here. What is a practical tip that you could share with listeners that has helped you in your life?
I would say love yourself.
I mean, you don't have to say anything else, man. That's perfect. That's perfect. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really happy we got to connect, and we're going to do it again.
Oh yeah, dude. Thank you. It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening to that show. I thought it was pretty good. How about you? Don't know why I did that. You know, sometimes the microphone gets in front of my face and I just lose all semblance of how to act as a person. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Matt, totally cool guy. I'm going to have him back on relatively soon because we have some other stuff to talk about relating to numbers, archetypes. You heard in the end of the episode there. Really great guy. Again, thank you to everyone who has listened, rated, reviewed, donated, all of those things. Check out other cool stuff at syncpodcast.com. Also, check out, if you're listening at this point in the episode, mindpodnetwork.com. Gave it a little facelift last week. There's a new version of the site. Go check it out. Go check out some of the other podcasts on there. I am a guest on Zach Leary's podcast. It's All Happening. Should be out in a couple of days. Give that one a listen. Give some other ones a listen. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.